You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for being here today. I'm Kirk Mona, and joining me are Rachel Gimza and Victoria Thompson. We're all naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders, just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Oh, I'm so excited to be here this week. How are y'all doing?
Hey, good,
Great.
good.
Weren't we just here last week?
Yeah, we're here every week, Kirk.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, that is.
And
right.
so happy to be here every week. What an
Oh.
amazing opportunity to spend some time with friends and also with our listeners who are like our other, they're our friends. We don't get to hear them except for when they send us messages.
Love
which
it
we
when
did
they
get some
send messages.
I'm going to remember to read some messages at the break here. So
Ooh, yeah,
Ooh,
great.
yes.
I like to hear those.
Me too. Oh, so lovely. Okay. Well, with that, I am going to talk about something that a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with. I'm not going to lie. People, I think just about every single one of our listeners is familiar with this particular plant that I'm going to be talking about. It is extremely widespread to the point where it is considered a weed, and especially nowadays, especially nowadays in North America, but it is spread from from Europeans. I'm talking about the dandelion.
I thought that was where you're going at first. I was like, if you're talking about
okay.
poison ivy, I just have a hate relationship.
Well, that's valid. Valid.
Yeah.
No, today we're going to talk about dandelions. Now, I understand. All of our listeners at home are probably sitting there like, Rachel, why would you want to talk about dandelions? You are on...
How strange are
How
they?
strange can
Right.
dandelions really be? You're on a
Right.
podcast. You're doing a podcast about strange things, and you're talking about dandelions?
Yeah, I'm curious to see where
You're
this
curious?
goes.
Very common and
Let me
very
put on my
common.
skepticals.
Oh, my goodness. Well, here we go then. So there's a lot
All
to
right.
be said when it comes to dandelions. Now, dandelions, if you somehow don't know, consist of a yellow flower. They are in the genus, oh goodness, Tara
You can do it.
boy.
axicum.
that's a rough one.
Yep. In the family Asteraceae. Sure, that one I can rolls off the tongue, no problem. But dandelions,
Yep.
wow. Okay, great. Good to know. Anyway, so dandelions are a little yellow flower, generally derived as like being... Okay, so they are a little yellow flower. They don't have an obvious like center like sunflowers do. They are truly just this little yellow head looking like a mane. They have a round stem that goes down, and then they have dark green leaves that from the base of the stem go out into a circle and like a nice rosette. The stem itself is hollow, and the leaves themselves are very jagged, have very strong teeth. Kirk,
Very big teeth, yeah.
you are the one who actually taught me this. They are
Oh, yeah.
named after the French Dent to Lion.
Dent de lion.
Dent
Yeah.
to Lion.
The teeth of the lion, yeah.
Teeth of the lion, or lion's tooth. That's English stealing from the French, which, not unheard of. So these flowers are actually really important. So you don't think of them. There's a lot of debate in gardening, in naturalist world, in lawn care, any of those spaces on where do dandelions fit in, especially when it comes to invasive species versus non-native species versus
Naturalized
just
or
naturalized species.
yeah.
So there's a lot of debate that is to be had. Now, dandelions are generally actually really good for lots of different reasons. You can argue with me all you want. You're wrong. I'm right. Dandelions are amazing.
Wow,
And
there it is. Okay.
there it is. I'm going to stand by this. They're actually some of the first pollinator like sources of nectar for like in the early spring. So dandelions are able to bloom in any temperature from 0 Celsius to 36 degrees Celsius, or for the rest of us who don't speak science, from 32 degrees Fahrenheit to 96 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a pretty big range for a
Quite
flower.
range. Yeah.
Especially when you think about it, a flower itself is going to have a lot of like, it might have issues with water retention. It is really vulnerable for, it's a space for the plant to be able to be burned and all of those pieces too.
Yeah.
So the fact that it has a wide range like that is really important. The other piece that is really cool about dandelions is their nectar is actually really nutritious for a lot of early pollinators. And because
Nice.
of that, they actually are really important for a lot of the first insects and bees and other pollinators that are either migrating up or are waking up from their hibernation slumber, because they're often the first ones to be around. Now, along those lines, they actually are really, really good in disturbed soil. So they thrive in places where there is a lot more carbon dioxide, which makes sense. They're a plant, but they will grow anywhere, as I'm
Yes, they
sure
will.
many of us can attest.
Just a crack in the sidewalk. Yeah.
Exactly. But think about it. Do you see any other plants growing in a crack in a sidewalk? No, you just see dandelions. Do you know how hardy you have to be able to be stepped on and then still survive and to get to seeds? All they really need is just, if you pull a dandelion and you have a little bit of their taproot, just a little tiny bit left behind, it will grow a new dandelion from that
It's
taproot.
astounding. Yeah.
One seed. You leave
Victoria's
any
like,
of it.
yeah, it will.
I love dandelions, okay?
Well, I don't mind dandelions. Like, I have a garden, so I deal with a lot of weeds, and dandelions are far from the worst offenders in my garden.
Exactly.
I don't care that much.
Yeah, and they do their job. They don't necessarily take over.
Sure.
So it turns out dandelions are actually really good for the soil, and good for lawns in general. So they have really widespreading.
Oh,
yeah.
now you're making enemies by saying that they're good for lawns.
I know. So they're actually able to loosen a lot of really hard packed soil, because they have such widespreading roots, which allows air to go into the soil, which helps a lot of grasses who may have either longer roots or short roots, depending on the grass that you have. It allows and aerates that, and it also helps reduce erosion because their widespreading roots go out so far that they're able to hold the soil in place.
Huh.
So again, good for a lawn. The taproot is generally so deep, it actually also pulls up calcium and helps make it available to other plants in the area. So they actually are helping fertilize your grass, not killing it. So maybe leave them alone. Just saying. They actually have a pretty long lifespan. So we've all tried to kill dandelions. It's just a thing that happens, especially when you don't know very well. But an individual plant can actually live for years, not just a little bit. The taproot is where the dandelion will continue on and on and on. And they've actually found that it can go down 15 feet
Oh my gosh.
What?
Yeah.
That's
No.
nuts.
Yeah.
Rachel,
15
shut
feet.
up.
Okay.
15
You will never,
feet.
I'm
ever
getting
pull
that
that
one
out.
out. Need a backhoe.
You
That's
are
just your
not...
standard, like, garden variety dandelion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'll pull them out and they have like a 6-inch root, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and generally that's like most of them, but if they get left alone long enough, they absolutely can, the taproot can go down really, really
Oh,
far.
man.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well then.
noted.
That is not something I was expecting to hear today. Okay.
Nope. That's my goal at all times, Kirk.
Of course.
Yeah, so there's other things that I'm going a little bit long, so I don't want to go too much longer. Dandelions in general are really, really cool. The fact that they use the wind to help pollinate, they use kids as well, technically, whenever they blow on the
Yes.
seeds and go everywhere, which I'm sure
Very clever evolutionary trick there.
I mean, yeah. In general, dandelions are pretty amazing. Not only are they able to help like recolonize and reclaim spaces that have been covered in concrete, which I know we don't super love, but does actually help create a little bit more green space and fresher air. They also are like really good like bits of food, have been used in medicine for thousands of years. Dandelion heads. I've actually fried up dandelion heads. I've had dandelion greens. If you have
you can make little fritters out of them. Yeah.
You can make fritters out of them. People will add dandelion leaves into salads. If you ever heard of chicory, that's a type of dandelion that is used.
It's a different plant, but
yeah, it's in the same genus, same family.
Okay.
It also, like, in general, they're so sturdy, and I really love dandelions. And I'll just say one last thing when it comes to dandelions, you can actually use them as a no caffeine coffee substitute. So
that's true.
Just saying, they're pretty cool. You can create a cup of tea. You can make wine out of them. People use them in salad greens. The middle part of the stem is a natural rubber. Like, there's a lot of things that are really cool about dandelions. And relatively strange. You see them all the time. You wouldn't expect them to be as sturdy as they are. Like, we take them for granted, and the sturdiness and willingness and ability to survive is strange enough, in my opinion. So it might not be super strange, but I think they are, and I love dandelions. So my sources this week, besides just what I know about dandelions, Wikipedia was an amazing source. The University of Wisconsin-Madison had a great article. The Wisconsin Horticulture, a lot of extensions. Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners, University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources, University of Minnesota Extension, and last but not least, Georgia Wildlife, which was the Department of Natural Resources. All amazing resources. Highly recommend. Learn a little bit about your dandelions.
Cool, thanks.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, it'll be Victoria.
Hey, we're back. Rachel, you talked about snakes last week.
I did.
I'm going to talk about snakes again. And we're going to start out with a snake quiz.
2 in a row.
Okay.
Oh,
are you ready?
Snake quiz?
All right, I'm ready.
Oh boy. Okay.
Most snakes are famously able to swallow food bigger than their head, right?
Yes.
Which snake can eat the biggest prey relative to its body size?
Oh boy.
Ooh.
I'm gonna bet it's a really small snake.
I know. I was like, you would try. I don't know. Green anacondas are.
Yeah, but I wonder if it's all that
Body-
much because they're already so big. I wonder if the thing they're eating is not. I mean, it could be anything. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they've been recorded eating like dogs and things.
A person in one case,
A
yeah.
person,
Deer.
yeah, deer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the obvious and say a green anaconda.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with something really small. I don't know. There's so many small snakes in the world. Little, like a little grass snake, little green grass
Okay.
snake or something.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, good guesses. Good guesses. Neither of you's right.
Oh,
Great.
Oh, what are the odds? Oh my gosh, we
Who
would have
would have
guessed the right
thunk?
one.
There are so many
Yeah.
species.
Okay,
the
was it a big
answer-
snake or a little snake?
It's a little snake. So, Kirk, you're
Okay.
more right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The answer is found in Africa with the
Okay.
genus Decipeltis. Decipeltis,
Oh, of
whatever.
course.
I'm going to be
Of
saying this a
course.
lot, so I'm just going to pick one. Decipeltis,
Great.
which contains 18 species that live throughout the continent, mostly in forested areas.
Okay.
Because you know what there tend to be a lot of in forests?
Trees.
Trees
Voles,
and birds.
squirrels.
And what
Birds.
do birds lay?
Oh,
Eggs.
eggs. Yes,
Eggs.
egg-eating snakes. Yeah.
And what do Decipeltis eat?
Eggs.
Eggs.
Eat eggs. Yes.
I love that.
Today, I am talking about the weird world of egg-eating snakes.
Oh, I've seen some photos that are just
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. Besides Decipeltis, there's also one species, a single species genus called the Indian egg-eating snake. And as you can probably guess from the name, it's found in India. It's called Elicystodon westermanni. While there are other species of snakes that occasionally eat eggs, opportunistically, as they say, these
Yeah.
snakes have evolved to eat exclusively bird eggs,
Wow.
which is, as far as I'm
Whoa.
concerned, an excellent choice of diet.
Ha ha ha.
Oh.
Like you didn't do. Sorry, you did this in the bonus that we did for the patrons. Yeah, you did a dad joke too, Kirk.
Look, I'm a dad. I'm not immune from making dad jokes. Yes.
Well, I like eggs, so, I get it. Eggs are highly nutritious, and if you're
Yep.
a predator, it's also an advantage to have prey that is not like poisonous or has other distasteful defenses, doesn't fight back, although, of course,
Yeah, that's
the
true.
egg's parents might fight back.
Oh,
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
The problem for these snakes, the main problem is, of course, fitting their mouth around an egg.
Yeah, that's because you can't. Crushing it is hard. And
Yeah, an eggshell is
oof.
pretty hard.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people have heard this claim that snakes can, like, quote unquote unhook or unhinge their jaw.
it's not really. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a misunderstanding of what they're actually doing. I have the feeling that one of us has explained this on the podcast before, but
I feel like we have. Yeah.
yeah, basically, the two halves of its lower jaw are not fused. So if you put your finger on your own chin, you're touching a spot where the two bones are fused together of your lower jaw. In a snake, they're not fused. They're separate. They're attached by some stretchy connective tissue and skin. When the snake stretches his mouth around its prey, or an egg, the two halves of the lower jaw stretch apart, accommodate that prey. For egg-eating snakes, in addition to this, they also have a number of cool adaptations that let them get their mouth around an egg. First, they have no teeth, because
What?
teeth would just get in the
Get
way
in the way, I guess.
Wow.
and
Interesting.
possibly
Okay.
break on the hard eggshells.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. No teeth. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Sounds skeptical.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, but like, dang. Okay.
Yeah, no teeth. Second, they have special sharp projections on the inside of some of their vertebrae that are around where their esophagus is. So these pointy bone projections stick into their throats, and they use them in combination with like a strong muscular contraction to break and collapse the shell of the egg once they've swallowed it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then the liquid
Whoa.
contents of the egg slide down into the stomach, and the snake regurgitates the shell. And I had heard that, like, I read this in a number of places. I'm like, how is the snake not piercing its esophagus with this bone and the eggshell?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I found a very helpful blog from a herpetologist, and he explained that the snake's esophagus has a lot of loose folds in its tissue.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that allows it to gives it enough give to protect it from being pierced by these vertebrae spines and also presumably the sharp edges of the broken eggshell.
Well, yeah, there is that.
Hmm.
Third, they have a very stretchy bit of connective tissue connecting those two halves of their jaw.
Okay.
So, a 2023 paper from a herpetologist at the University of Cincinnati named Bruce Jane looks at just how wide egg-eating snakes can stretch their mouths compared with other types of snakes. I read this paper. Interesting. Open access. Thank you.
Woohoo!
So
Yay.
many previous studies that are trying to compare the gape of different snake species had focused on the specific bone structure of the jaw and also
Okay.
on what they call relative prey mass, which is just the ratio of the mass of the prey to the mass of the snake. But as Dr. Jane points out in his paper, these approaches have some limitations that make them not as informative as you would like for this purpose. So first of all, with respect to jawbone size, he found that the bone structure was actually a lot less important than the stretchiness of that connective tissue.
Okay.
And second, relative prey mass doesn't take into account how slender or stout the snake is, and it did not consider the shape of the prey. So if you think about it, for any given length of snake, like say you have a foot-long snake, the snake could be quite slender or it could be quite thick or stout with a larger or smaller head. So that's going to affect what it can fit in its mouth. And also it would be easier for any snake to get its mouth around something that's elongated, like another snake, versus something quite round, like an egg.
Okay.
You think about trying to open your jaws. So something could be the same mass and stretched out versus all in one ball. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So what Dr. Jane did was, oh my gosh, this experiment was so wacky. He took several specimens of the egg eater, one of the Decipeltis, it was Decipeltis gansi, and also of the American black rat snake, which sometimes eats eggs, but not as the main part of its diet. And then, unfortunately, he euthanized them.
Aww.
And then in order to be able to manipulate them better, he cut off their heads, with a certain amount of body sticking down below.
Oh, jeez.
What?
Yeah. And then to test how far their jaws would stretch, he created 3D printed probes that were cylindrical with a hemispherical end. So
Okay.
in different millimeter gradients of diameter. And then he stuck them into the mouths of the dead snakes, and he carefully measured what was the maximum size that could go into the snake's mouth.
Jeez. Okay.
And he took scans of the fully opened jaws and did all kinds of measurements. Yeah, and so he found
Wow.
Huh.
Just wow.
something else. He found that
Okay.
It's kind of gruesome, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little bad for the snakes.
I do too.
Yeah.
But he found that the stretchy jaw skin of the egg-eating snake allowed its gape to expand by more than 50%. While for the rat snake, it only stretched by about 19%.
Okay.
So obviously this type of research has not been done on all snake species, but so far the egg eaters beat all the other snakes with how much bigger relative their size their jaws can expand. The next best one is Burmese pythons, whose jaws stretch an additional 43%, which is impressive, but not quite as big as 50%.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting. You might wonder, why are we euthanizing snakes for this? But the stretchiness of the skin was actually quite notable, and Dr. Jane pointed out that this could be an area of future medical research in terms of like, an extra stretchy type of skin could be really useful in like lots of medical applications.
Okay.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah, that
It's
would
basic
make sense.
research.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So like somewhat concerning, but interesting experiment.
Wow. That just must have looked so bizarre.
Yes.
I can't. Trying to picture that. It's okay.
For something slightly less gruesome, I do recommend going online and just checking out some videos of snakes eating eggs because it's very cool. And there's
It's really
one of those BBC documentaries I saw a clip of had an X-ray of the snake eating the egg,
Oh wow.
so you could
yeah.
see how the bones punctured the egg,
Cool.
which was very
That's
cool.
pretty cool.
So my sources this week, that paper I mentioned by Bruce Jane, August 2023 from the Journal of Zoology called Scaling Relationships of Maximal Gape and Prey Size of Snakes for an Egg-Eating Specialist and a Dietary Generalist. Also, a New York Times article called This Tiny Snake Has a Big Mouth by Kate Golombiewski, August 31st, 2023. That blog that I mentioned, the post is called Egg Eating Snakes. I love the name of this blog. Life is short, but snakes are long.
Nice. Nice.
That's good.
By Andrew Durso of the Florida Gulf Coast University, and also Wikipedia.
Cool.
Very nice.
All right,
Thank
we're going
you.
to take yeah, you're welcome. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, it'll be Kirk.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Before we get to my topic, I did promise a listener comment here. We had Christy. Hey Christy, thanks for listening. Christy said, heard y'all name drop the Nutria Eat, Ride, or Jacket Louisiana edition.
Ooh.
Nutria, alligator, crayfish.
Oh.
Or crawfish if you prefer. This one answers itself really. Eat the mud bug, jacket the swamp rat, ride the gator.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
That's
So
correct.
she
Actually,
proposed
Correct.
her own eat ride jacket and then answered it. That's great. You know, if you want to
honestly,
send
that's
us
a really,
your,
really good answer.
Yes.
yeah, send us your eat ride jacket
Although
for animals that are local to you. That would be really interesting. Christy reached out to us through the Podbean app, so she was listening and comment on the show right there. You can do it that way. You can send us an email, contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com, or to the different social medias like Blue Sky and places like that we are. So let us know what would you eat ride jacket. You don't have to answer it either. Maybe we can answer it for you, give you our opinion on that. But that was really fun. That eat ride jacket, you guys, is becoming a thing. So exciting.
I've eaten alligator, and I will confirm that crawfish are more delicious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
alligator is not that tasty. I used to live directly across the street from the Minnesota State Fair.
Yeah.
And some people, if you're not from around these parts, you're like, oh, a state fair. Yeah, those are those little things out, you know.
No.
No,
This is the
no.
largest state fair in the country.
It is.
By
It
some
goes
measures.
on for so
Yeah.
long. It has so many people coming. I remember, I forget the exact number, but when the Minnesota State Fair is running, it basically becomes one of the largest gatherings of humans on Earth. While it's
That
going
sounds
on.
about right.
It is unreal.
It's so
but-
crowded.
It's
Unbelievable.
very crowded.
Yeah.
And it's huge. I mean, it's a giant place. And a person on my block bought a house just to house his workers, and then filled the entire house with refrigerators, so they could constantly all day long be bringing food over to the fair to run their food booth. And I think this guy realized this was kind of not the nicest thing to do to a neighborhood, to have this like empty house, basically.
Right.
Right.
So he felt bad, and so he this was like a gator booth where they sold alligator, and so at the end of the fair, he brought over food and served the food to the entire neighborhood. And we're like, oh, this is
That's
kind of
nice.
fun. And we got to eat alligator, and I can tell you, it's not that great. It's
Yeah.
pretty. It's
Bland.
kind of thing. It's kind of you eat to go. Hey, I ate alligator, and you're like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not
Kinda
bad.
chewy.
It's not bad. It's not great. Yeah, a little chewy, and it's a novelty. But anyways,
Yeah.
good job, Christy. Thanks for writing into us. I want to hear what else should we eat right jacket. And I'm going to follow Christy's rule here. It has to be 3 things that are from where you live, wherever you are in the
Ooh,
world.
yeah.
And that'll help
Love
us
it.
and the listeners know about your place. So tell us where you live and tell us what we should consider eat, ride, and jacketing from your neck of the woods. Should be fun. Hopefully people write in. All right. Moving on. This week I have a fun little creature feature. I want to bring you the Pyrean Desmond is the name of the
The
creature.
what now?
Yeah, the Pyrean Desmond. So
What?
first off, let me get this out of the way. They are found in Spain, Portugal, Andorra, and the French Pyrenees.
Like from the Pyrenees.
Okay.
Okay, got
Yes,
it.
so that's
got it. Okay.
Pyrean Desmond.
Okay.
And so even though it has the Pyrenees kind of in the name, they are found in these other places that I mentioned, but all of them, I should point out, are mountainous. I think it is fair to call them mole-like. They are mammals, and they are mole-like, but doesn't really prepare you for their appearance. They are about the size of a mole. Indeed, they are cousins to moles, but they are genetically distinct from the moles. There's actually only 2 types of desmond on Earth. The other being the Russian
Whoa.
desmond, found in small part of, you guessed it, Russia.
Russia.
So fossil evidence indicates that they used to be much more widespread, but are now only found in these few areas. And so in a sense, they're a glimpse into the past of species that used to be much more widespread, and they're considered a relic species, which is very cool. So back to
That is
picturing
pretty
them.
cool.
Okay, picture a mole, but now you have to make certain accommodations for the habitat it lives in. You see, these creatures are aquatic,
Oh.
What?
which is very strange. Picture like an aquatic mole, basically. They can swim. Their feet are webbed with stiff hairs around the edges. So basically you have a web-footed aquatic mole. And the back feet are also much larger than the front feet. They have a
Okay.
long tail like a rat, or perhaps like a muskrat, if you know what those look like. You kind of picturing this so far?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Mostly.
There's something I haven't really mentioned about their appearance yet. They do have a snout, and moles kind of have a snout. And this snout is quite sensitive, and they use it for hunting, but oh boy, is this a whopper of a snout.
Okay.
It looks a bit like an echidna snout, if you're familiar with an echidna. But a big difference with the echidna is that the echidna snout is stiff, and this is actually a snout that is flexible, and they can move it around while searching for food and exploring their environment. I was actually searching around for information about this online, and I found some people joking about alternate names. And the 2 that people came up with, which I absolutely love, this is on Reddit, they came up with the Ottervark as a possible other name.
That's fun.
And
I do love
by
that.
combining aardvark and otter. And the other one was the platyphant, mixing the platypus and an
great.
elephant, because of this like
That's
elephant
good.
snout on the front. Both completely awesome names. Good job. So they also have extra large whiskers to help them find food, and they actually have what's called the Eimer's organs. And are you, I guess, familiar with Eimer's organs?
No.
They're extra sensitive mechanical sensors in the skin, and it's actually the same sensory organs that allow like a star-nosed mole to be so sensitive and kind of map out their whole
okay.
environment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not something you can really see. It's like a thing that's like subcutaneous, but it's like bringing a lot of information in about your environment. So
Okay.
Desmonds use this long snout and will like stick it into crevices and seek out aquatic macroinvertebrates, which is a fancy way of saying essentially water insects, although some things actually aren't insects that are macroinvertebrates, but you get the idea. That's
Right.
kind of what they're eating. These are not big animals. They're, just kind of like they're like mole size. They're basically just mole size. So what else? They got some other weird things. They can close their ear flaps to keep out water, like a few other mammals. Muskrats and beavers come to mind there. They can close their nostrils as well while they're swimming, which is something I think would be kind of handy if we could do. So putting this all together, I know it's a little hard to picture, and that's something that we come up against on this show once in a while. But I have two suggestions. First of all, you could just I guess three suggestions. One is you can just look it up on your own if you want to. But what I would suggest you do is subscribe to our e-newsletter. And I know some of you are already subscribed, but if you aren't, now is the exact right time to do that. We're actually getting ready to revamp the newsletter, or we have been revamping the newsletter to add more content. And so moving forward, the newsletter is going to kind of be the primary place to see the photos of what we're talking about each week. So when the show drops, you'll get an email. It's going to have a link to the show. Actually have like the show embedded right there in the email if you want to listen right there. It's going to have full show notes and then cool photos that you can see of what we're talking about. So it's going to be a weekly dose of weird delivered straight to your mailbox for free. So you can sign up on our homepage, strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you scroll down to the bottom of the homepage there, you can enter your email address and you'll get that newsletter in your mailbox each week. And those of you who have already done that, if you look in your mailbox, the pictures of this animal are there right now. Go check them out. They are super, super cute.
And I'll actually be like including other pictures, like in our social media. Generally, we just have one photo of each item or whatever we end up covering that week. My search history, let me tell you, wild.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll actually include a few more photos in our newsletter.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to grow over time. We'll get as we refine what's in there. But if you haven't signed up for it before, check it out. Or if you have signed up for it, but you haven't been looking at it lately, check it out. We're going to be adding new stuff there. So now I did say that there was another way to find out what they look like. And, please do sign up for the newsletter. But if you want to picture this creature right now while you're driving or washing the dishes or whatever you do while you listen to the show, well, I have some good news. At least if you're a fan of the Fantastic Beasts movies, because the Pyrean Desmond basically looks like a mini aquatic version of a niffler.
Oh, okay. I did fully picture that in my head immediately.
Yeah, if you know what a niffler looks like from the sort of Harry Potter inspired Fantastic Beasts movies, that's it. That they are a mini niffler who lives in the water. I don't know if they steal shiny things, but they're really, really cute. Cool. They sadly don't have a very long lifespan, maybe 3 years or so, but they make up for that by having, interestingly, a pretty active mating life. Unlike some animals that only mate once per year, these niffler lookalikes actually mate 3 times per year and can have up to 4 young. So they work hard to keep the population going. And they better keep it up too, because the Pyrean Desmond is classified as endangered. I mentioned at the start that they are a relic species. The world has changed around them, and their habitat has disappeared, both due to natural climatic changes, but also recently due to human activity, and also, we're changing the climate. The Russian Desmond is considered critically endangered, partially for the same reasons, but also because it has the added pressure of hunting, as it was traditionally used as a fur-bearing animal, and also hunted for the harvesting of its scent glands, because it has a much stronger musk smell that was used in perfume and in traditional medicines, apparently. So if you're ready to see one of these little river nifflers in the wild, consider yourself very lucky and realize you're seeing a strange glimpse into the past when these animals were much more widespread and the earth was a different place. My sources this week about the river niffler, the Desmond, is National Geographic, Animalia, and Wikipedia.
Oh,
and that
thanks, Kirk.
Brings us to the end of the show.
Oh, already?
Already. It flew on by. Thanks, everybody, and have a good night.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach us by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can check out our website, strangebynaturepodcast.com, and you can support the show and get ad-free episodes at patreon.com/strangebynature. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.